Before the casinos and neon lights, the American West depended on a single wall of concrete, the Hoover Dam. On a scorching summer day in 1931, that wall almost failed. If it had, Las Vegas and much of the Southwest might have been wiped off the map. This is the forgotten story of the night the Colorado River tried to reclaim its course and nearly turned America's proudest engineering project into catastrophe. At the dawn of the 20th century, the Colorado River was lifeline and menace. Spring floods smashed through canyons and drowned fields. Summer drought left towns gasping. In a single decade, harvests could swing from plenty to dust. Las Vegas, then a dusty rail stop, dreamed of growth. California's Imperial Valley begged for controlled irrigation. Phoenix, Los Angeles, and a string of boom towns across Arizona and Nevada needed power. It wasn't just prosperity at stake, it was survival. Washington's answer was audacious. Build the world's largest dam to tame the Colorado, store floodwaters, release them on schedule, and spin giant turbines to electrify the desert. The plan demanded more than vision. Engineers would pour millions of cubic yards of concrete in heat that could cook an egg on steel. They would carve diversion tunnels through solid rock and trust temporary cofferdams, ridges of rock and earth, to hold back a river known for impatience. It was a bargain with the elements, and the elements didn't always keep their side. By midsummer 1931, the canyon roared with progress. Thousands of men lived in tent camps and new barracks. Freight trucks chewed up gravel roads. The Colorado, rerouted through giant tunnels, skimmed past the future dam site in a controlled rush. Then the mountains gathered a storm. Upstream, cloudbursts poured into tributaries like opened gates. The Colorado swelled with mud and tree limbs, accelerating toward Black Canyon. Foreman got the warning by telephone. A surge was coming. Not a trickle. A wall. The call went out. All hands to the cofferdams. Off-duty crews sprinted from mess halls. Lanterns flared on the parapets. Floodlights spun and caught the first brown waves slamming the rock fill. Sandbags moved in chains, truck to shoulder to crest. Steam shovels coughed awake, bucket arms swinging riprap into hungry gaps. The river answered with spray that hit like gravel. Inside the tunnel mouths, crews ripped driftwood from grates to increase flow. The diverted river had to swallow more, or the cofferdams would vanish. Eyewitnesses felt the ground tremble as the Colorado hammered the temporary walls. Floodwater began to feather over the top, a mocking sheet of brown glass. For hours, the outcome hung in doubt. If the cofferdams failed, months of excavation and hundreds of lives could be erased in minutes. As midnight neared, the Colorado hammered the cofferdams like a giant's fist. Foremen blew whistles, summoning off-duty men from tents and mess halls. Floodlights carved cones through the rain. Human chains snaked to the waterline, passing 50-pound sandbags from truck to shoulder to wall. Steam shovels coughed awake, trundling along muddy berms to dump riprap. Sparks from their stacks danced in the spray. Surveyors leveled staffs to watch the river climb. Half an inch, another half, every tick upward, stealing time. A tug wrestled a gravel barge against the current. Deckhands threw heaving lines while the pilot feathered the throttle to keep from broaching. The north abutment erupted in a thin jet of water like a punctured vein. Carpenters slammed in timber sheeting and wedges. Inside the tunnel mouths, crews ripped driftwood from grates so the conduits could gulp more river. A crawler tractor skidded sideways toward the edge. 3 men jumped clear while another dropped the blade to anchor it in rock. The night smelled of wet concrete and hot oil. Spray stung eyes with the metallic taste of silt. Telephone lines drowned, so runners ferried orders from boss to boss. The message was simple: hold the line. When a sandbag wall slumped, a crew rebuilt it waist deep, shoulders braced against the current, teeth chattering in desert rain. Lightning stitched the canyon rim. For one bright second, the men looked carved in stone, then vanished behind a curtain of rain. A foreman counted headlamps, 2 short. He sprinted along the wall until hands burst from the froth and he hauled them up by their belts. The clock slid past 2 a.m. The river still rose, but slower now, as boulders and brush choked the gaps. Engineers gambled on a last resort. Crack open Tunnel 2's service gates to steal another fraction of flow. The tunnel inhaled. The flood's scalloped face dropped an inch, then 2. A cheer broke and died quickly. The storm wasn't finished, but the cofferdam had stopped losing ground. By 3 a.m., the water hovered a hand below the crest, still deadly close yet no longer climbing. Near dawn, the upstream cofferdam let out a sound like a rifle shot. A seam split, and torrents tore through the gap, taking tools, scaffolds, and a rail cart with them in a single gulp. Men on the crest lunged for balance. One slipped, 3 grabbed his belt and dragged him back. The flood snatched a stack of sandbags and slammed them into the abutment like thrown bricks. Bucket brigades pivoted to the breach. Gravel, rock, brush, anything heavy went in. A steam shovel slewed its boom directly into the current, releasing tons of riprap that vanished into white water. Surveyors called out new levels from chalk marks, down a quarter, then up an eighth. The river fought like a living thing, ripping away what men had placed seconds earlier. A second crack spidered along the crest but stopped short when a boulder rolled perfectly into place, wedging like a tooth in a broken jaw. The current changed tone, still savage but less hungry. In the tunnels, crews opened auxiliary vents. The diverted river thundered through the conduits, and the canyon vibrated like a drum. At last, the breach began to choke with debris. Water still poured through, but it no longer tore pieces from the wall. The flow smoothed from rabid white to heavy gray. No one cheered yet. The foreman scanned the crest for weak spots, then pointed to a low saddle. Every spare bag went there. The river tested, hissed, then grudgingly slid back toward the tunnel mouths. A pale wedge of sunrise cut the canyon rim. In that new light, the cofferdams looked beaten but standing, edges ragged, faces patched, but high enough to hold the river's temper. The site foreman drafted a telegram that would become legend. River held. Work resumes. It wasn't poetry, but every man understood the line between those words and disaster. Work did resume. Crews rebuilt what the flood had chewed, raised the temporary walls higher, and drove deeper into bedrock. They had not defeated the river. They had earned its pause. In bunkhouses that morning, men compared bruises and swapped stories. Who slipped? Who saved whom? The moment a boulder settled like a plug in a wound. The river had almost written a different future. With the river contained, Hoover Dam rose in interlocking blocks. Giant concrete cubes keyed together like stone teeth. Engineers laced each block with pipes to carry chilled water. Without cooling, the mass would cure for a century and crack itself to pieces. Pour by pour, the canyon became a wall. Crews worked day and night, the dam arching gently upstream to press itself into the rock. Every lift added height, and every foot of height added safety against the next willful surge. By 1935, intake towers stood like pale sentinels over a newborn lake. Turbines spun, sending electricity leaping down steel lines across the southwest. Street lamps brightened. Pumps pushed water into fields. A dusty rail town called Las Vegas began to glow. The night the cofferdams held didn't make headlines across the world. But without that night, there might have been no reservoir, no turbines, no oasis of neon rising from the desert floor. Today, visitors stroll the crest and pose by the Art Deco towers, reading plaques about dates and dimensions. Few realize that one storm, one narrow escape, kept this concrete crescent from becoming a memorial to what might have been. Stand here at sunset and listen. Beyond the chatter, you can still hear it. The steady hiss of the river through penstalks, the muted thunder of turbines, the patient argument between human design and water that never stops wanting its way. The Hoover Dam didn't conquer the Colorado. It learned its language. And on one desperate night in 1931, when the river roared and men answered, it learned to speak a little louder.